everybody. I think we have a few people logging in. Looks like we have a big crowd here today. Thanks for jumping in. I think we'll get started, and as people roll in, they will get some updates along the way, maybe in the chat here. So welcome to part 2 of our series covering how to unlock AI and data power in Business Central. This series is all about helping you get the most from your ERP investment with Business Central, as well as leveraging new advancements in technology to help you drive very meaningful impact to your business. If you missed part 1 on AI agents, we will post that link to the webinar in the chat here for you. We covered specifically the payables agent and the sales order agent. Jason did a great job showcasing that. So definitely dig into that if you missed it. But as for today, we're going to dive into Business Central. We're going to talk about how to think about extracting and analyzing your data and visualizing it. We're going to take a specific look at Business Central versus Power BI. And so if you're ready, I'm ready. As we get started, please know that you're muted for right now, but the chat is open and it's ready for you to engage with us throughout the presentation. I will monitor that closely and ensure that we're answering any questions along the way. And then at the end, there's going to be a Q&A section where you'll be able to bring yourself off of mute and you can ask questions if you're brave enough to do so in a large setting. If not, that's okay. Use that chat and we'll take on those questions for you. But let's do a really quick test. Let's make sure Microsoft's working today. If you would, go up to the top of your screen and just raise your hand really quick and make sure the button is working. Thank you. I see people already engaging in that. Behind the scenes, we will lower your hand. I just want to make sure that's working. And then over in the chat, do me a favor, hop over there, quick chat. Let me know where you're joining from. I'm currently in Kentucky, but I am based out of Austin, Texas. I escaped the heat and I'm enjoying the fall weather here, which if you're around the Midwest area, I don't know how your colors are looking, but I've been a little bit disappointed in the fall so far. Anyway, we'll get over that very quickly, and we are going to get into our session today. Now, here's what we're focused on. So by the end of this webinar, my goal is for you to walk away with proven frameworks to prioritize high-impact KPIs, structure your reporting for strategic wins, and then also confidently choose between, do I use BC Native reports or Power BI, which is all going to help you unlock faster decisions and deeper insights for your team. Oh, wow, I see a lot of people, Chicago, San Diego, Massachusetts, all different parts of the US. Very cool to see. Denver, awesome. All right, so back on topic with our agenda. A quick introduction, we're going to start there. I know that a lot of people on the call today may not know who Crestwood is or who I am, so we're going to do an introduction. And then I'm going to take you through a really methodical approach to reporting that I've shared in the past when advising clients. We'll talk about reporting structure, native BC versus Power Platform. We'll really get into the weeds of this. And then we're going to look at how do we get a great return of your ERP investment within Business Central. So we're going to showcase what's already available to you for reports. And then we're going to kind of kick it up a notch and we're going to show you how to utilize Power BI for your benefit. And then I'll wrap it up at the end with a Q&A as well as some additional resources we've put together for you. Now, spoiler alert, our development team behind the scenes has developed a Business Central extension for you today, and it's really to solve a common trial balance report issue that we've seen a lot with our clients. And so we'll be giving it to everybody who's live on the call today. So I'll talk more about that later, and you'll see it in our demo today as well. It's totally free tool we've just kind of put together for joining our webinar today. Now, first up, introductions. My name is Stephanie McColly. I'm your host, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Business Integrator at Crestwood Associates. I bring about 20 years of experience in marketing, finance, and operational strategy, really focusing on helping SMBs build scalable, repeatable business models. My passion is specifically in empowering businesses like yours with data-driven solutions and sustainable systems that scale. It's something that I've seen transform operations across various industries that I've partnered with, and it's a really exciting topic for me. Now, my superpower is the ability to take a vision, translate it into a strategy, put it into action, and then leverage technology to ensure it gets executed and over time with a pattern that gains traction. And so you'll see a glimpse of that today as I take you really high level into how to think about reporting, and then we drop into the actionable tactical steps that you can take with your reporting. On the call with me today is Jason. Jason is here and he's the real brains behind the operation. He's a certified Microsoft solution architect. He's also a data analyst and Power Platform expert, and he brings 20 years of technical expertise to our team. His skills specifically in ERP, data insights, and process optimization ensure our clients get the most out of their technology investment, and he helps them to achieve enhanced efficiency and growth, which is great. So we're both active on LinkedIn, and we'd like for you to connect with us on there, ask questions, and stay updated as we post more information that's happening within the Microsoft side of the world. You can actually click the links here, or we'll drop these links into the chat and we can stay connected that way. But feel free along the way, if you have questions, throw them into the chat and we're here to answer those today. Now, really quick about Crestwood, because I know several individuals on the call may not know who Crestwood is. We are a 27-year VAR. We are a Microsoft partner who basically has experience in delivering end-to-end ERP solutions. This very extensive history for us allows us to draw on proven approaches that we have done throughout implementations, customizations, and long-term optimization for companies. In addition, we serve as a trusted and award-winning top partner for Microsoft, which enables us to provide very reliable, up-to-date solutions that integrate well with your existing system. That's the reason for today's topic. It's also the reason for the AI agents discussion that we did last month. But our team specifically is loaded with industry experts like Jason, focused on industries like manufacturing and distribution, professional services, also extending knowledge into areas like retail commerce and just general business. And so we're focused on helping address sector-specific challenges effectively. And so you'll see a little bit of that today in our session. We do maintain an in-house development team, and they support our internal customizations. And then additionally, our personalized customer success team and in-house support are structured to offer sort of that long, ongoing training, issue resolution, and just general guidance for our clients. So we're a loaded one-stop one-stop shop for Business Central and Microsoft needs, and we're happy to support you along the way. Now, these are services specifically that we offer, but today we're going to focus all the way to the bottom right here on analytics. Should you need support in any of these other areas, total open invite just to engage us, reach out. We're happy to connect you with a team member to help you if you're just looking for support and optimization or cloud hosting or any of these other areas, but please know that that's available to you. Now, let's move into our methodology for reporting, and then Jason's going to guide us through a very helpful demo and hands-on experience. This chart's a little bit of an eyesore. I may have a couple of those today, just bear with me here. But this chart represents the feedback directly from our clients, showcasing what their business focuses are for the next 12 to 18 months. So if you would, help me out, because I'm interested to know where you're focused for the next 12 to 18 months. Head to the chat and let me know which of these specifically resonates with you. I want to know this because Jason and I will be speaking on these specific topics monthly for the next 12 to 18 months. And your feedback will be helpful for us to know what webinars or what topics are going to be most impactful for you. But in the meantime, if you notice these yellow boxes, this is where, when you leverage data well, you can impact every single one of these areas. And so what I want to do is I want to get to work. I have 3 slides that we're going to get into, and then we'll jump into the hands-on demo. But definitely give us some feedback here, and you'll see more webinars coming up from us. All right, so first up, let's kick off our strategic reporting journey here at 30,000 feet. I said I love taking vision, sort of translating it into a strategy that's actionable. That's what we're going to start with. So we look at it from 30,000 feet, and to understand true reporting methodology, we first have to look at, before we structure data or before we pick tools, we have to nail what to measure. So let's talk about that first, and then Jason's going to land the plane in his demo. And we'll look at the tactical application of Business Central and then Power BI. So in most of all of the companies that I've advised in the past, data is where teams usually get it wrong. They drown in metrics. KPIs are everywhere, and there's only a handful that really drive decisions, but they're looking at too much information. If you think about data, consider that it's the vital few rather than the trivial many that make the big difference. This slide is your filter. You want to focus on core KPIs. This is your what happened North Star. And it's complemented by leading indicators, which is the what's coming predictors. So you look past what happened, and then you want to look towards the future of, what's getting ready to come down the pike. We'll ID these really quick with some examples across sales and finance and ops and manufacturing, so you can leave knowing how to cut the noise and really amplify impact of your data. But first, the basics. Core KPIs are lagging indicators. These are outcome-focused and reliable proof of success, but they lag behind actions. They are technically your scoreboard, and they're easy to track in Business Central, like pulling from standard reports. You can identify these by asking, what actual results tie to my top goals? And here's a tip I like to provide to businesses. If you have more than 6 to 8 core KPIs, either for your overall company or by department, you don't have clarity on what you're actually measuring, and the chances are you're not likely driving real impactful results. Maybe you're gaining advantages in areas, but you're not narrowed enough in your focus on those core KPIs. So what you want to do is you want to have clarity on those, and you want to try to drive those results. To get there, think about leading indicators. These are predictive and they complement the core KPIs. They're early signals that influence the cores. They're actionable and they're forward thinking, and they spot the trends before they hit. So you want to ask yourself, what drivers can I tweak today to boost tomorrow? Core KPIs tell you what's already done. These drivers are going to help you change what's coming tomorrow. So a quick hack that you can use to identify some of these is audit your last board meeting or your last leadership team meeting or just general department meeting. What metrics sparked the most debate? Because those are probably the ones that are the most important. Now start there and aim for a balance. You want about 70% of core KPIs for accountability and then 30% for leading with agility. So in BC, native tools will handle the core KPIs effortlessly, and then Power BI is going to allow you to blend in your KPIs with some external data. So we'll look at that today. Now, this is where I like to stop and explain the 10-minute Fiji dashboard to kind of apply this in real world. So I once worked with an incredibly successful entrepreneur who had his data nailed down. It was beautiful. He never really took off any days, which is a topic for another day, but he did a great job being hyper-focused on the really critical needle movers. Now, his data was so well crafted that he could go to Fiji, connect to the internet for 10 minutes, and in the morning, do a quick review. He would review his core KPIs to see what happened yesterday, and then he would hone in on his leading indicators on a dashboard, and he would be able to assess them within 2 minutes to know what was either failing or outperforming. And then he could apply his energy to manage by exception on the things that needed his focus. It allowed him to get really narrowed. For the next 8 minutes then, he would spend syncing up with his team and putting in actionable efforts that would help them move their targets forward. After 10 minutes of this in the morning, he could close his laptop and go about his day and go swim or enjoy Fiji a little bit more. But that 10-minute dashboard made it possible for him to do other things that were more important to him while also driving the business forward. And so I share that because it's a true story and it's really actionable when you have a dashboard and data that works for you. So let's talk about this table that's here. When it comes to sales and finance and ops basics, your core indicators are going to look like things like monthly revenue. Did we hit quota? This pairs well with leadings like the sales pipeline or the sales pipeline velocity to flag bottlenecks early. If you don't have that pipeline velocity, you're not going to hit that monthly revenue target. Or you can look at net profit margin and days for sales outstanding to predict cash crunches. Now you can also look at on-time delivery rate complemented by inventory turnover to avoid stockouts. So you can see where your core indicators can be supported by some of these actionable indicators. Now with manufacturing, let's say OEE, your overall equipment effectiveness as a core gets a boost from machine downtime hours. It predicts disruptions for preventative maintenance, which jack up your efficiency. That's a great thing. On the distribution and supply chain side, your order fill rate leads with warehouse picking accuracy to cut out errors and delays. And so that total cost of ownership that you'll see there also for inventory, it flags supplier lead time variability, and it's going to help you with smarter sourcing. And so if you can see the power here, it really points to how the cores validate past wins, and then the leading indicators will steer future ones. And together they can turn your BC data into foresight, whether you're assembling widgets or shipping pallets or whatever it is that you're executing. So my challenge here for executives, here's the stakes. Your data isn't just a dashboard. It's the foundation of every decision that scales your business or leaves you reactive. So lagging indicators can confirm you've arrived, and the leading indicators ensure you get there to begin with. One of my favorite authors is Peter Drucker, and he puts it very bluntly, you can't manage what you can't measure. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Also, I don't know if there's any better way for an employee to clearly see if they're succeeding or failing as a dashboard being available to them to show them their number and where they are with their number. So some key takeaways here for you as we look at this slide is hunt for the impactful few. Cores for proof, leading predictors are for prediction, and watch the decision-making sharpen when you really hone in on these. Now with the KPIs locked in, how do we build data that feeds from the ground up? Because we've talked about core KPIs and leading indicators. Not every team needs these, or maybe different teams need different ones. That's where we're going to enter into our next slide, which is the reporting hierarchy pyramid. And this is going to be your blueprint for structuring a flow from transactions to transformation. So let's zoom in and think strategically about reporting, kind of like architects planning a building from foundation to, let's call it, penthouse. So this pyramid slide is your roadmap for structuring data and reports to drive real value. It shows how reporting needs stack up from raw transactions at the base to the top where the executive insights are. So this is tailored to different user groups that you're going to see there on the left. So the key here, design your data models to flow upward seamlessly, ensuring everyone gets what they need without silos or overload. We'll unpack the levels, we'll map them to the users, and I'll share a quick framework for building that data structure. This sets us up perfectly for choosing the right tool next. The right tool being, do I use Business Central native reports? Do I use Power BI? And what are some of the complexities that I'm having with those? So let's explain through the pyramid here. Start at the bottom, right down here. This is the base, the wide base. It's the transactional reporting. This is your core financial and operational business structures. For instance, invoices, your ledgers, your inventory logs. This is the what happened data, and it's pulled directly from your ERP system with technical capabilities like, for instance, using queries or basic functionality. Think of this like very high volume, real time, and foundational, kind of like the bricks of the foundation of your house. Then as we climb up this pyramid into the decisions layer, that adds your financials and operations metrics and analytics. Your KPIs like cash flow trends, throughput rates, blending metrics for kind of tactical choices here. Now, higher up is the strategic decisions. And that's going to introduce the financial and ops analytics with leading indicators and industry trends. Think of these like forward-looking stuff, like predictive sales forecasts or market benchmarks to spot opportunities early. And then at the peak, at the very top there, is the strategic analytics. This is a holistic analytical view for big picture strategy, like scenario modeling or cross-business insights. The arrow that's on the right is going to reinforce that this isn't random. It's a deliberate flow from operational needs at the very bottom, which is the foundation of every company, to the very top, which is the analytical firepower you need to continue growing and creating efficiencies within your business. So strategically, your data structure must support this ascent, and you want to start with robust integrated models at the base, then layer on aggregations and perhaps AI-enriched analytics as you go up. We'll have a little sneak peek into that today too. So you'll see when this is applied, we will use this to apply to native BC reports and versus Power BI. So we'll talk about that. But let's look at mapping to the user community and the data structure thinking here. So the overlay here shows the users on the left. They are your why for each level. When it comes to your operational managers, they live at the base. They need business area specific reports for targeted information models. Kind of think of this like reps pulling daily pipeline metrics for CRM linked data. Structure-wise, focus on modular, function-specific models for quick drillable access without overwhelming them. Remember, these are very transactional type reports. Then when you look at statutory, regulatory, or external third parties, they're going to tap into that mid-level metrics. Compliance reports from standardized financial and ops data exports are sufficient here. You can also prioritize audible, version controlled type structures to help meet that demand pretty easily. Then you continue to move up into the management and executive and senior managers. This level specifically is the bridge between strategic and tactical efforts for your business. So you really want to focus on multi-model access for holistic business management. They need to see the transactional sort of at the base and then also the analytical at the top. They're in the middle of this. And so you really want to build interconnected data models here that let them slice across the different silos. Then as you move up and you get into the senior executives, this is where the essential information models really start to take place. It's condensed, targeted analytics to help key decisions. It's kind of like executive summaries with what-if scenarios, if you want to think of it that way. So for strategic framework here, audit your current setup. Ask yourself, does our data flow with this pyramid style, or is it flat and fragmented? 9 times out of 10 in companies that I've worked with in the past, it always starts off fragmented, and we work towards this model for them. And with this model, data starts driving a lot of the decisions very intelligently. And you start to take subjective ideas or thoughts around data and you turn them into being very objective and data-driven decisions. If you invest into a scalable model like this, you can actually ensure 80% of your users get the 20% of data they actually need, and they get it really fast. And so some of the key takeaways here to consider is great reporting isn't about more data. It's about structured data that ladders from transaction up to transformation, and it's matched with the user who's using it. So this hierarchy is going to equip you to prioritize and then build a solid base and empower a climb of data over time. It's a healthy way to position your company. So now that you have a strategic lens here and you're ready to pick the tools to deliver this, we're going to flip to the next slide, and this is where I want to talk about BC native reports versus Power BI and how they support these levels. We'll see native excelling at the base of this pyramid, and then you'll see Power BI really owning the peak of this pyramid. So let's break it down. Again, the iSource slide. It's a little bit busy. Please take a screenshot if you'd like to, but it really comes in with great purpose here. So as Business Central users, you're really no stranger to the built-in reporting tools, but Power BI can supercharge your insights. So we're going to look at both of these. This slide breaks it down sort of side by side across different criteria. Think of this as your decision tree for stick with native BC or do I level up to Power BI? So I'll walk through each of these and then highlight the strengths and when to choose one over the other. So my goal here is to equip you to pick the right tool without the guesswork, which is going to save you time and headaches down the line. Maybe you'll see that you've got the wrong reporting in the wrong area. Let's start with the report types. So first up, what are these tools best suited for? On the left, you'll see the criteria that I've created here for reports, followed by columns from left to right. And so these columns, these first two here, the BC native reports and the Power BI reports will compare to one another. And then the BC dashboard will compare that to the Power BI dashboard. So when you look at the criteria on the BC native report side, these are your go-to for structured compliance, heavy financial reporting. For instance, reconciliations, audit-ready stats, or embedded daily workflows. That's where BC native reports are really going to come in handy for you. With Power BI, it shines in very analytical or KPI-driven scenarios. So think profit margins, revenue streams, executive summaries with visual storytelling. It's perfect for slicing data dynamically. Then when you shift to the dashboards over here in these two sections, BC reports are ideal for internal ops like fixed assets monitoring or quick BI filters and static finance views. It's also great for routine checks without bells and whistles. Power BI dashboards, they're kind of the star for cross-departmental insights, real-time sales and finance monitoring, and then decision-making as well. So use them when you need holistic view that bridges teams together. Remember that middle management on the pyramid that I mentioned? Power BI comes in very handy for those team members. So key takeaway here is go native for compliance and basics and Power BI for storytelling and strategy. When you drop down into the second row of customization and interactivity, you want to move to customizations to see how flexible you can get without a dev team potentially. And so BC native reports offer limited tweaks. Options like no dynamic drill down often need developer help, but you can keep things basic and static here. Power BI is more highly flexible. It's interactive with elements like drill downs, filters, custom visuals, and even AI-driven insights. Jason's going to show us that in a little bit. For BC dashboards, it's simple templates that suffice for straightforward needs. There's no heavy lifting there. And the Power BI dashboards can really empower user-led exploration with charts, maps, and reports. It's ideal when end users want to dig in without IT. So the decision point here when it comes to this specific section of customization and interactivity, if interactivity is key, if what if scenarios are key, Power BI is all the way, but native can be ready for you. The native reports in Business Central can be ready for quick, low maintenance setups. Now, when it comes to data sources and integration, this is where things get real. BC reports handle single company or external sources with effort, integrating across businesses, but not seamlessly. Power BI merges multiple companies effortlessly and other business data, even Excel apps for broader blends. BC dashboards can actually thrive when all the data's native to Business Central with external blending as needed. It'll help it to stay contained. And so Power BI is perfect for predictive analytics. It's going to mix your financial data and external metrics. So what does all of this mean? Quick tip here is go native if your world's mostly BC contained. Power BI is really great for cross-system harmony. So if you're using more outside of just that BC environment, that's going to be your win. When it comes to performance and speed matters. Nobody likes reports that take forever and that crawl. So with BC, native real-time ERP access can struggle with massive data sets, so you may see some limitation in that native area. With Power BI, it's going to handle large volumes, 1 million plus rows with really complex calculations, often can be scheduled for efficiency if needed. The BC dashboards are going to excel at routine high volume ops queries without lag, so that's kind of nice. It's reliable for daily operations, again, that base of your pyramid. And then Power BI is going to suit you for real-time needs within just milliseconds to be able to see your data. So think strategic over transactional speed there. So when you think about this row 4, which is performance and speed, native for ERP direct speed and Power BI for scalable scheduled power if you need it. And then as we kind of round these next ones, when you think about audience and accessibility, this goes back to those users that are using your data. Think to yourself, who's using this? BC native reports are going to suit back office folks who prefer familiar ERP interfaces, kind of like accountants crunching numbers. Power BI is going to appeal to the frontline staff wanting mobile-friendly access on the go. BC dashboards in this area are going to target operational teams needing interactive access. You can kind of think finance or ops desks. And Power BI is going to serve broader audiences craving dashboards and interactivity across those devices. So my advice here is match to your users. Use native ERP for your loyalists and then Power BI for mobile cross collaboration. Now you kind of get the point here as we go through these. You see the differences between Power BI and BC native reports, and then also the dashboards between the two. And so as we wrap this up, this is a huge grid that's packed with a ton of information. But in summary, what I want you to do is lean on BC native for compliance, routine ops, and quick ERP tied reports where simplicity rules. You're going to flip to Power BI when you crave the interactivity, the cross data magic, and visual dashboards for bigger decisions. That's going to be your growth engine. And so think of it this way. Native keeps the lights on and Power BI turns insights into action. And so Jason's going to showcase how we can apply these concepts in the overview of native BC reports, and then of course Power BI. And so I want to see if there's any questions before we jump into that. It looks like we've got a couple things here. We can't pull on time delivery easily from Business Central. Would be interesting to see how to do that. Okay, I do see some of these notes in here. So Jason, while you're demoing, I'll go through maybe some of the chat here and we can apply some of the insights if that works for you.
Sure.
Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna hand this over to Jason. It's my hope that you think about data a little bit differently after these 3 slides, and you question what you currently have in your system and what you're using to tell your story, whether it's that base foundation operational level or all the way up to the analytical, or as you assess the data for the different roles in your company, maybe the way you're looking at data is the key here. And so as Jason takes us through the differences of native reporting versus Power BI, no doubt this is going to strike up more questions and more information. Please feel free to engage again in the chat. We will likely do a follow-up webinar to this because I can see the big need just from the audience so far, of the things that we're seeing come in. So Jason, I'll let you take this away and we'll get into it.
Sure. Let me go share my screen. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Looks great.
Perfect. Okay. So welcome everybody. There was a lot of information that we covered, and we're going to cover a lot more information now. We're going to try to get a little more practical and tactical in what we're looking at, but it's all going to tie back to what Stephanie was talking about with not all reports are created equal, and that's a good thing. These reports are really meant for their audience specific, who's reviewing these reports, and what is their intention with this data once they have it. So depending on who's looking at it and what their intention is, sort of determines what report we need to use. It's like trying to pick the right tool for the job at hand, right? Not everything is a nail, so we don't always need a hammer. So let's get into, and before we get into looking at Power BI specifically with Business Central, we're just going to walk through, we're going to level set and orient ourselves with what are the out-of-the-box reports that we have available to us in Business Central. What do they give us? What data does it present us? Can we modify them? If so, we'll look at general ways that we can modify, and then we'll get into the Power BI of how we can, basically as we move our way up that ladder, depending on like, do we need raw operational data versus completely aggregated summarized data at the very top? We're going to cover all that area. So if you haven't been in Business Central for a while, or you have never seen Business Central, I just want to kind of orient ourselves here. This is the role center. So this is the screen that you're going to see every time you double click the icon for Business Central, it opens up, you're going to land on what's called your role center. And think about it as your dashboard or your hub. And the reason why Microsoft calls this a role center is depending on the role that I'm logged in as. So if I come up here to this little gear icon, I go to my settings, you can see right now I'm logged in as a business manager. But if I were logged in as, say, an accountant, or I'm part of the AR team, or I'm part of manufacturing, whatever role that I might be associated with, depending on that role, and I'm logged in here, changes my experience of this role center. And one of the things that does change is the visibility of reports available to me. So with me logged in as a business manager, I have reports ready at hand, easily, ones that are most relevant for, say, a business manager. So balance sheet, income statement. I have my Excel-based reports, different types of reports here based on my role, and then Power BI reports. But just know that depending on the role that you're logged into, you're going to have visibility of different reports. So if I'm logged in as a warehouse worker, I would see my reports be broken down and grouped more by warehouse-related activities. So if I'm in accounting, it's going to be accounting-related activities. So just so you know, that sort of influences the reports that you have too. Let's just say that no matter what role I'm logged into, how can I access my reports? And there's a couple different ways that we can do that. For one, again, depending on what role you have, you can quickly go here and find the report you're looking for. That's one way. Or you can come up here to all reports. And this is going to, no joke, all joking aside, show you all reports that are available to you in Business Central. And so let's just say that right here, I'm looking for an aged accounts receivable. He says I have 6 results, and it starts highlighting all my different reports that I have available to me. And it'll start to aged accounts payable, so on and so forth. So if you're not sure where your reports are, or you've lost them, or you're not even really sure what they're called, you can come to this all reports section, start to type it in what you're looking for, and then be able to quickly access the report. So I could click here. It pulls me right into my aged accounts receivable report. Something interesting here, if this is a report that I go to quite frequently, I can actually bookmark it right from here, which is going to add it to my bookmarks back here. So if this is a report that I run quite frequently, I don't need to go to all reports. I can bookmark it. Now I have quick access to it right away, right from this screen. So that's one way. So that's one way that we can find our reports. And if I cancel out of this, you can see now that report is listed there. So again, my reports are going to be determined by the role I'm in. So what's available here, I can also go to all reports to find all my reports that's available within the system, no matter which role that I'm logged in as. And a couple different areas down here is I have insights down here with reports, charts that's built into Business Central. And then once we attach Power BI, our Power BI reports will land here. And one of the last little bits to orient ourselves of where we get our reports is this intelligent search. So I can either click on the magnifying glass, or if you like me, I like hotkey, so I do Alt Q, same thing, it pulls it up. And let's just say that I want to run a trial balance, and we are going to run that later. In this intelligent search, it does a couple things. One is it's going to look on our current page and try to determine, are we trying to navigate to an area of Business Central based on my key terms. So it looks on the current page. It's pretty much narrowed it down that I'm looking for trial balance. But this is another where we can find reports too. If we start to type in a report, the intelligent search is going to offer up specific reports related to our key term that I can just run right from here as well and then bookmark them. So just to kind of level set and orient ourselves with our role center when we first log into Business Central, where are our reports at? How do we get to our reports? And again, depending on the role, that kind of changes things, but you have access to all these reports. So now let's walk through the reports themselves. Starting from that, if we think about that bottom base of the pyramid, right? This is the raw operational transactional data that, depending on the audience, is probably going to be really relevant to them. So more likely that'd be your Excel-based reports. So for example, I can run, say, this trial balance by preview. It's going to open up, it's going to download, and then if I open this up, let's just take a look at what this Excel document would look like. So it grabs my data, and this is a live link, right? I have a live connection back to Business Central. And this is an Excel-based report. So this would be more of operational. These type of reports, these Excel-based, would be helpful compared to, say, Power BI or some of the static reports. These Excel-based reports are helpful if I need additional analysis beyond maybe a static report, if I want to run some what-if scenarios, if I want to have custom formulas. But it allows me to have access to my data with a little bit more manipulation. It's a little bit more live in the sense of, here's my trial balance, but then here's all my different dimensions that I might be tracking, or account categories. So maybe I just want to see trial balance only for department related to sales. And so I can quickly filter down my data based on these different dimensional values. Maybe I only want to see if one of my dimensional values I'm tracking is customer groups, and I only want to see my trial balances for anything with a customer group related to large, right? I can quickly filter this down. So these Excel-based reports would be helpful for users who they want some type of custom analysis or additional analysis that's beyond a static report. They want to have custom formulas. They want to have what-if scenarios. They want a little bit more flexibility and autonomy over how they want to look at the data. They can turn on these slicers, throw this into a pivot table, and continue looking at this. So that'd be one way that you would be able to, that'd be one of the foundational reports that you can look at, more operational. Another one that might be interesting, and this is where some of the Copilot information comes in. So let's just say I'm going to general ledger entries, and I just have a running ledger of all my GL entries from Business Central. And I can run report on this, but I also have the ability to run analysis mode. And this is something that's somewhat new in Business Central. So for example, I can click on analysis mode, and it just takes that table and it throws it into more of a spreadsheet type table, like something Excel. And from here, I can start to group, and I can turn this into a pivot table right within Business Central. So right here, my values are just sum amount, source currency. We can turn all this off, right? Here's a sum amount, but maybe I want to group by, let's see, by customer group. So I would have the ability to run this analysis based on different groups. I can turn this pivot table on and off. But here's where it also comes nice, is we can run analysis using Copilot, and I can just use normal language and talk to Copilot and just say, show me the total expenses by department for the current fiscal year. Let it do its thing. So now it automatically generated a pivot table and analysis of all expenses broken down by department for the current fiscal year. But you can continue to have these conversations with Copilot, right? So now that we applied the first level analysis, now let's say, now break it down by month. And if I were to run this, so not only do I have it still broken down by my expenses down by the departments, but now it added the different month buckets to show the different values within that area. So that's just a different way of applying maybe some raw operational data. It's not quite Excel, but it's got Excel-like, but I can run these analysis right within Business Central, pretty much on any type of list page So for example, this is general ledger entries. If I were to come back out to say customers and go to the customers dashboard, I can also turn on analysis mode here and say, show me customers with a balance over 5,000. And it looks through all my customers and it saves this analysis, which I can then save. And anytime I open up my analysis mode from customers, it now becomes an ability for me to then open it up as a new tab. So there's just a couple different ways. So you have your Excel-based reports that we saw at the beginning. Beyond that, I can go to a specific page, general ledgers, customers, items, whatever it may be. I can run analysis mode and then have some quickly spin up some dynamic pivot tables and pivot information using the data that's on that page. Something that yeah.
One comment and then two questions. So one comment is oftentimes when we've spoken with clients in the past, one of the biggest frustrations, especially with finance professionals, is I have all this data in my system, but I can't seem to get what I need out of it. And a lot of times it comes down to we just don't know how they don't know how the data is structured to know how to tell the system to pull it. So I can see that with Copilot, that's the benefit of asking Copilot questions in just standard language. You don't have to know what the data structure is to get to ask the questions that you need to ask, right?
That's right. Yep. That's exactly it.
Okay, and then two questions that we have in the chat. I think one you'll end up covering here, but maybe you can answer this other one also. So the first question is, do you have to have a certain role to see Excel reports? This individual doesn't have that as an option.
I don't know if Excel-based reports are by role. Let's see here. Let's change mine.
And then as that's loading, well, go ahead and look. I won't take us too far.
So we still have Excel-based reports. So yeah, so I think that's part of it where the Excel-based reports, they're not visible on this because it's different role, but they're technically can still be part of, if I were to come over to here to all reports.
So user-based could be the issue. So maybe look into your user settings.
The role, just make sure that it's customer trial balance. So I still have access to the trial balances even on different role. It's just not presented to me like a business manager puts it right there in front of your face. Okay,
so maybe play for Amy, maybe play around with that and see if that's the issue. And if needed, we're happy to help. You can just reach out. I can align you with our support team and get you set up there. The second question, Jason, is our company has multiple departments and we're unable to filter or report on each individual department on their sales. So our company has multiple departments and we're unable to filter or report on each individual department's sales. How do we do that? Is that something that'll be applicable here as we dig into some of these reports?
It could be, yeah. So one thing that you could do if it's by sales, so for posted sales, more than likely what we would do is add in dimensions, and you would have the departmental dimensions for each of the different sales invoices, or even down at the line level. So then when you came here, you could run a report by sales and then use the dimension, the department dimension, to group by that. And so then you would be able to, if that makes sense, you'd be able to run all your posted sales. So these are finalized sales. If you're using it with dimension of a department, then you could then group everything by department. So you get that department level aggregation.
Okay, and so that would be a native report, just adjustment right within BC.
Just adjustment, and you can even do the same thing within financial reporting, like income statements. You just add in that department level, but the dimension has to be attached to either at the document level or at the line level, if you want whatever dimensions you want to look at.
Perfect.
And we are going to look at that here in just a second.
Okay, awesome. Yep, and Jennifer, hopefully that answers your question.
So when we think about that lower level, and it's lower level only in the sense of like who's looking at it and the intention. So lower level in the sense of like raw operational data. We have our Excel-based reports that we can apply slices to. We can also go to these different pages like general ledger entries, customers, posted sales invoices, some of these different these different tables, and run that analysis mode and have a little bit more flexibility in operational data there. Beyond that, when you think about the other type of financial reports, and we'll make sure that we pick it up here just because we have a lot to cover, is your financial reporting. So these are you think about is your static, your standard, out of the box financial reports. For example, you have your income statement here. And depending on the filters you apply to it and what you have access to and how you've structured this, we'll just take a look at this. It's an income statement starting from the beginning of the year to current day. If we hit preview and close, nothing too super exciting, but I want to show you more of what we can change here, because this is out of the box. This is a standard income statement report from Business Central, from Microsoft, but you're not bound to the structure. You can change this. You can change the look and feel. So, for example, I can go over to definitions. I can click on row definition. It's asked me if I make a copy. Not this time. And you can see right here, this row definition. This is the structure I looked at. Here's my income, total income, COGS, total COGS, gross profit, expenses, total expenses. And this is when we set up our row definitions, what we're setting up is a structure of these financial reports. So what we're saying is we can have various income, different categories of different income buckets, right? So this one's income services, product sales, however many different categories you want to track income by, for instance. And then what I do is I assign my GL accounts to that row definition. So what we're saying here is any GL account between this one and this, if this has a balance, so if it's not zero, if it has a balance, you're going to show up in this bucket. So this is a way for us to add in our GL accounts to our different rows to modify the layout, the feel of these reports. And you have the flexibility to put the GL accounts in a couple different ways. So you can see here, I can do just one GL account. So because the rent expense is maybe just one, I can also have a range. So I can have from this account to this account. If any GL account between this range has a balance, it's going to show under advertising expense. But even beyond that, I have the ability to add in different flexibility. So I can say this account and this account and this range. So you have a lot of flexibility in these static reports. And even if beyond this, if you don't like the look and feel of changing the row definitions, we have the ability to change the complete layout. For example, if I were to look at the trial balance, and I just run this with actual balances, and I would preview this. Got to give it a date. Kind of messy. This is a trial balance. It works, but again, depending on your needs, maybe this layout doesn't work. And this is where this is the extension that Stephanie was talking about at the beginning, where we've created, based on a lot of feedback, we created a trial balance formula or format that is really popular with our clients. And I think we're giving this away for free. So you can kind of see the difference here is we have our root account and then any dimension combinations that go with it. So we get a little bit more flexibility, a little more context of what's happening with our data versus just a kind of like a standard long running list of trial balances. I don't know, Stephanie, if you want to provide a little more context on this, why I pivot over to Power BI.
Yeah, this one's a great example of a really commonly used report that doesn't necessarily have the layout that's really helpful for users that are using it day in and day out. We see that it's pretty common. Our development team put this extension together. There's a couple other versions of what we're going to call the accountant's report pack. It's these really common reports that are being run that just really need small tweaks to make them more user-friendly. And so we'll keep updated on that. We have some upcoming newsletters and things coming out. This extension's free. We're just giving it out, but it's just so much more helpful because sometimes those reports in Business Central aren't as helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So we talked about where do we find our reports in Business Central. Then we talked about the two different types of reports so far. We have our operational reports. So it's like our Excel reports. We have our static standard reports with financial statements. Think of like our normal P&Ls, things like that. Now let's talk about Power BI and how we connect. And that's to be our last 8 to 9 minutes here. So one of the first things, because this is Microsoft and Microsoft oversees Power BI and Dynamics, there's a nice seamless integration. And really, there's only about 2 or 3 steps you have to do to make this connection. So if you've never connected Power BI to Business Central before, you can go to the gear icon, go to Assisted Setup. You just type in Power BI. it's going to tell me that if you haven't ran this process before, it's just going to go through and like a wizard and ask you certain questions. I'm not going to run it again because I've already installed it and connected it. But once you do that, what you have the ability to do then is add in your different Power BI apps. And what that means is you can build Power BI dashboards by custom, by hand. It's your data, that's the flexibility. But if you really want to ramp up your data analysis and see what you have available to you out of the box, Microsoft has provided what's called Power BI apps. And so once you've made this connection to the Power BI service, then you come through here and you start adding in your different applications for your different reports. So for example, if I try to run a finance report, it's going to say, which Power BI finance app do you want to add? Now, what does that mean? Well, if I would come over here, depending on my version of Business Central, I have these Power BI apps available to me. So I have finance, inventory valuation, manufacturing. I just go to that particular page. So if I were to click on this manufacturing one, for example, if I want this app, because manufacturing is something I want to track in Business Central or from Business Central and Power BI, I can click Get It Now. And what that app's going to do is going to install into my Power BI service, which is right here. And if I were to go to apps, you can see here I have finance app, I have sales app, subscription billing, inventory, purchasing power. I have the apps. Once I have the apps built into my Power BI service, I can come back over into my Power BI service in Business Central and then say what app I'm going to use. I'm going to use the finance app, and I can click it there. When we try to run Power BI reports related to sales, what sales app are we going to use? I go find my Power BI sales app that I installed in Power BI, and I just go through here and I just add in all the different apps that I'm interested in having Power BI reports for. Once you've added in those apps, now if I were to click on here and go to financial report, I have a financial overview of my business, of my company, right inside Business Central. And I can click through these different tabs here. I can drill down into any of these. You can actually click on them and it'll open up Business Central right directly to that record. Takes me right to the invoice that I'm interested in. So I get full flexibility. This is live data. This is drillable data. This is dynamic data that I can drill right down into. And so whether I'm trying to view the report in Business Central, I can also review the report in Power BI. So for example, if I want to look at this finance app, it's the same app. It's the same dashboard. It just gives me flexibility of, do I want to view this app inside of Power BI, or do I want to have this Power BI app within Business Central, or both? And in addition to that, I can come down here to this Power BI section down here, select report, and what report do I want to have here on my Power BI? So from here, I can click and say, on this one, I also want the finance app. Now I can embed this Power BI dashboard right into my overall role center. So it's really kind of 3 steps. You run the initial configuration setup from assisted setup. Once you do that, then you install the various apps that you're interested in. So if I come back here, and we can leave a link to this page where it shows where you can pull down the different apps that you're interested in. Once the apps are installed into the Power BI service, they then become available to you back in BC for me to add in here as the different apps. So if I want to add in BI purchasing, I can choose the purchasing app. Now I'm going to have purchasing insights related to my business using my Business Central data live right inside of Power BI. So that's some of the flexibility. And depending, again, on the audience, if I need raw operational data or more of that static, dynamic, or static data from financial reports or Power BI, the data lives in Business Central. And depending on how we want to view this data, who's viewing it, do we need it more like raw data, or do we need to aggregate it so we can make some decisions off of it? That sort of determines where we're at within Business Central and what report that we want to look at. And one last little thing, when we were talking about dimensions, being able to report on dimensions, that's another area that we get to analyze by. So for example, if I were to look at my data, and I'm just going to show this as, this is called analysis by dimensions. Let it pull up. You can see it almost looks very similar to almost like a P&L income statement where I've got my different income accounts over here down to my expense accounts. It's broken down by month up here by my month bucket. And this is okay. This is okay for maybe some. I do have the ability to drill down into these amounts and figure out all the different ledger entries that's making up that total aggregated amount. Where the analysis by dimensions really comes in handy is being able to do that, analyze by dimensions. So I can maybe switch from period, switch to department, change the date on this. Now if I show this, now I have my departments up here along the top and my different value entries down below. So it makes sense that sales department has all the different sales. But if we come down here to expenses, we can see we have some expenses that are related to administration. We have some expenses that's related to the production department. We have some other expenses that was related to HR, again, with the ability to drill down and see the different entries that made up that we assigned or so at least associated these expenses with a department, and so on. So we have related expenses for marketing department, and we have some for IT. So this would be another way that if we wanted to analyze our data by dimensions, we use what's called analysis by dimensions. Show our columns as any specific dimensional value, how we want to look at it, and then we're able to analyze it this way, also kick this report out into Excel if we want to have a little bit more flexibility. And that sort of does it as far as being able to, where our data resides in Business Central, how you would run the reports, how you can modify the reports, and how you connect to Power BI. Stephanie, is there any other questions out there maybe we can adjust?
Two quick ones. In that dropdown where you were selecting the department, Jennifer was asking if she doesn't have access to select that department. Is that a user setting as well?
In this analysis by dimensions?
Yeah, it was in an earlier part, but I'm going to assume it's sort of the same filter. She doesn't see the dropdown to select departments.
Okay. That might be, so it sort of depends on what's set up here as far as dimensions. If departments isn't listed as a dimensional value, then it's not going to show up. So it would have to just find out where the dimensions are being applied, if they're associated with the overall instance. Because it should be available to you. If it's a dimensional value, it's going to be available to you as a dropdown.
Okay, she's saying not for general ledger. So Jennifer, maybe we can dig into that with you and see if it's permissions based or maybe settings based. Jason, can you customize the Power BI reports from those apps, like color scheme, slicers, additional columns?
Yes, to a certain extent, that you have the ability to modify some of these areas. But anytime that they would release a new update, it's going to overwrite, because this is a Power BI app from Microsoft, so it's going to overwrite whatever any type of custom settings you had. So, but yeah, you can adjust this. You can also, time didn't permit it, but you can build your own Power BI dashboard using Power BI Desktop. You connect it to your Business Central data and build your different visuals the way you want to, and then you have full flexibility of the color schemes and the branding that you want to do. So it's a yes kind of until they release an update.
Okay, and then I'm going to bring up my slides to kind of bring this home, but if there's someone having a permission issue on Power BI when they're trying to connect and set this up, how do they go about getting that resolved? I guess there's probably a couple different angles maybe that are causing it.
Yeah, one is, if it's Power BI related, make sure they have access to the workspace, because every app or every report lives in a workspace, and you have to have access to that workspace to be able to have access to that report. And then if it's something within Business Central, then we have to make sure that the right permission set is applied to that user, because that will determine what pages they see and then what they can do on those pages.
Okay. So maybe if you don't have a partner, of course we can help with that too, but there may be or somebody within the organization that can help you switch that, but we're happy to help maybe look into that and troubleshoot it. And then one more question, is there a way to change from fiscal year to calendar year for all reports at once? They're noticing that the apps default to fiscal year out of the box for Power BI.
Yeah, so there is within, show this really quickly. So one way, if you're able to see my screen.
Yep, looks good.
You can switch it here from calendar type it tries to default from fiscal calendar. If you can go to standard, and then as long as you have standard and your counting periods are set up correctly, it'll pull in that first month as like a standard calendar. It won't try to pick which month it thinks that your fiscal calendar begins on.
Okay. Veronica, hopefully that answers your question. And then one more, if you develop your own custom Power BI dashboard, can you link items back to Dynamics like the native supportive app?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Great questions, everybody. I can see the need maybe to dive a little bit deeper into an upcoming session. I will maybe send out a survey and we can just put in some questions and some information in there to see what we can do. But okay, let's bring this home. So here's what we've covered. Methodical approach to how to look at your data. Hopefully you can take some nuggets of information away from that and go back and challenge your reporting. The reporting tools to use, whether Power BI or native Business Central, you now are equipped with a decision-making grid. Hopefully that's helpful. Maybe that review of the native Business Central reports has you thinking about how to modify it or how to just use them out of the box. Hopefully there's a couple nuggets in there as well. And then setting up and utilizing Power BI and Business Central, definitely a cool feature. I want to remind you, if there's any need for support in those areas to maybe help you get these things set up, or if you want to dig in further, we're open to support you and help you in that area. We do have a feedback survey. In this survey, I try to keep it really simple, just one document for you to just give us some feedback on today's webinar. If there's additional topics that you would like us to present on, please add that in there. And then I also added in the extension or consultation option in there. So if you would like to connect with us, or if you would like that extension to download and add to your environment, just fill out that form and let us know, and we will follow up on that very quickly. Also below here is the resources from today. So the link to the Power BI apps that Jason showed that you can select and set up for your Power BI instance. And then I always like to include what's new in Business Central in that Wave 2 area. This is something just to help you stay up to date on your Business Central environment. And then of course that Power BI versus native reports guide and a blog just to support the modeling of your data. We've got that in here as well. And so thank you all for joining us today. Please fill out that survey, give us your feedback. I saw the chats of the topics that you're interested in. We will be building out a 12-month webinar schedule. I'll continue to send that out in messaging. Hopefully you find those helpful. And please reach out in the meantime, and thank you so much for being here today. And consider completing that webinar and reaching out to us for any of your support needs. We're happy to help with that. Thank you all so much, and have a really great afternoon and happy Halloween Eve. Hopefully you enjoy your Halloween tomorrow. Thanks, Jason, for all your demo skills here. Super impressive.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.